everybody. I'm Rachel. So she told me, in a world full of polka dots, be a square. Can you hear me now? She told me, in a world full of polka dots, be a square. And little did my third grade teacher know just how much her words would impact my life. I was 9 when I heard that advice, and I've used her words of wisdom as a compass more times than I can count. So how exactly do I apply Mrs. Pizzulo's words of wisdom? Well, I used to bop around to the tune of Huey Lewis's Hip to Be Square, and I thought about her words, and she reminded me, embrace your differences and your insecurities. But today, her words are my guide. I can try to make my square shape smaller and fit through a round hole, or I can create my own path. In a world full of polka dots, be a square. So, very early in my career, I was inspired by a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So the too short version of what got me here is after receiving a BFA in graphic design, I entered the corporate world and spent the most incredible 9 years of my life working for and with the best humans on this planet. I worked for 7 years for a consulting firm based here in Oklahoma City, followed by 2 years working for a paper goods design firm based in Utah. And then my whole world flipped upside down. And in 2014, our daughter Audrey lived her whole life. My husband and I welcomed and said goodbye to our daughter Audrey. And it was after that that everything changed. I saw everything differently. I felt everything with more depth. And her life and her death changed me for the better. It opened my eyes to the rare and beautiful thing it is to even exist. But it became difficult for me to go back to my job as I knew it. I needed more purpose in my work. I needed my creativity to be used in a more meaningful way. It wasn't hard to go back to the company or the people, but to the work. My newfound perspective helped me realize that just because I can serve a purpose doesn't mean that is my purpose. Let me say that again if you didn't hear it. Just because you can serve a purpose doesn't mean that is your purpose. And so ultimately, I left the world of being employed to go it alone. Perspective changed everything. And it was my time to choose what I would design and when I would do it and why I would create. And so Polka Square Design was born, and I set out to do marketing and branding design for small businesses. And so that's what I still do today. And sure, there is a certain freedom and flexibility to how I work now. Sorry, I got to flip. And that has to be why I haven't re-entered the working world yet, although I'm tempted regularly. But there are certain ways to how I currently work that are really, really difficult that shouldn't be glossed over, such as turning it off. It's hard to turn it off when I work from home because my computer is right there and my email is on my phone. Support. What I absolutely took for granted was the built-in support. People who believed in me. And now it's easy for me to feel insecure and lonely. Fees. I knew it would be difficult for me. I just didn't realize how hard. I often set my fees far too low. And I'm known as the girl who is fast and thorough and nails it. And she's the cheapest around. That is not a good thing. Pro bono and volunteer work. Setting limits and boundaries is a challenge for me. And it's not out of obligation, but it is because I have a sincere desire to help and the ability to help. And marketing. It is awkward for me to constantly be promoting myself. Anybody else? And also, I pride myself on a quick turnaround, and if I mark it too heavily, I don't want to get booked out too far. So, do the pros outweigh the cons? I don't know. That answer will change every day, probably. Okay, so I have to quickly switch gears because I'm running out of time. One of the perks about this current work status is a flexible schedule. And finally, I can do some of these just for fun projects I've always wanted the time to do. And so about a year after our daughter passed, I painted our daughter's handprint, and I have it here, I just don't have time to show it, with a verse around it as a keepsake for my parents. And to some, it's not much, but for me, it's like a light bulb, because it helped me realize something. It's imperfect, but just as it's supposed to be, just like our daughter was. And what it helped me realize was when I design on the computer, I have control, literally. I have the comfort of Control Z. If I don't like how the design is going, I can erase, go back, and start over. But when I do a handmade project, I don't get to start over. And we don't come equipped with edit undo, do we, in our life? My handmade projects more closely relate to my life because I don't get to go back and start over. I simply get to learn from my experience and move forward. So the more I've used my hands, the better I've become as an actual designer on the computer. So I stitched the heartbeat of a friend's baby who lived only inside her mother's womb. And I painted a quote for a little boy on a piece of wood, and it now hangs in his room. And I gold foiled a pair of angel wings. And I hand lettered quotes around a globe. I use the camera as my eye, and I write, and I write, and I write. It's as if a part of me has truly come alive. And the beautiful part is that it feels completely natural. When I'm trying too hard, it shows. But that which comes with little effort is some of my very best work. I'm almost done. So here's the magic. When I started using my hands to create and to make, I became a better designer on the computer. The computer is where the work is, but the work became more fun and more purposeful. Why? Because I was being filled by these adventures of handmade art. I don't sell these projects, and most of the time I don't even create them twice. I try a lot and I fail often. Sometimes I succeed, but I learn something every single time. So you might ask, what has the world of making done for me? It has left me feeling unfinished in the best way. So, these creative journeys are a part of my craft. And my craft is who I am. And am I a master of any of it? I hope not. And so I'll leave you with the wisdom of Will Rogers. When you're done learning, you're done.
So good. I was going to clap, but I don't have my case on. So good. Thank you for that, Ashley. My name is Krista, and I am Craft. How many of you guys have been here before? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you guys, this is your very first time? Keep your hand up. And if you have been here before, your job is to connect with these folk, make them feel welcome here at Creative Mornings OKC because they're doing something amazing here. So thanks for being here. I just thought I'd start with that because a little icebreaker, a little hey, instead of just like hey. Anyways, I still said hey. Okay, so when I saw that Creative Mornings was doing a audience take the stage, and I was super stoked about like the possible opportunity to be here to speak with you and to talk to you all today. I've come and I've been admiring Creative Mornings. I actually emailed my parents a job position with Creative Mornings in Boston, and they said, no, you can't move. And I said, I'm a grown woman, but I'm staying. It's fine. So I just really love what Creative Morning represents, and I thought, like, I've heard some of the talks and some of the subject, the words, and I was like, I'll smash that talk, like, yes. And then I saw this month was about craft, and I go, like, I don't dance, I don't make, like, what is it as a craft? And I got kind of intimidated, but really over the last few months and weeks even, like, I've been internalizing and mulling over who I am, and what I'm supposed to be doing in life right now. Right now, I'm 9 months in recovery from a spinal fusion. You guys can say, "Aw." Yeah, it sucks. But it's fine because I'm doing much better than I was before. And so for the past 4.5 years, I've had the privilege of being a children's pastor in Norman at Victory Family Church. Shout out Victory Family Church. Some of them are here. And they were like, "Did you just butcher our name?" My bad. Victory Family Church. Anyways, whatever. And so I thought that I could, like, do back surgery and full-time ministry, but you shouldn't do back surgery in anything. And if you know anything about full-time ministry, you shouldn't do ministry in anything. So that it just didn't work out. So I made the decision to step down from this position that I felt called to be. And so that leads me to where I'm at now in these processing of what my next step is supposed to be. And I recently started a nonprofit, and when I say recently, it was this week, and only because I was coming here today. Just being honest. Listen, I've had it all set up, right? Everything's ready to go, but I was afraid to start it. Will I be good enough? Will it work? Is it going to make sense? Will I believe in me? Will people believe in me? But during this process of stepping down, and I didn't work for 6 months, I had the time to process myself as a craft, and I developed myself by growing in leadership. I advocated for my body by having surgery. I allowed my mind and body to heal while I took a break and worked on me. In those moments, that's when I tended to me, and that is when I was cultivating my craft, me. And so my background is a story of pain, and I thought that it destroyed my craft. I didn't know what I was supposed to do and where I was supposed to go after leaving this called position. But myself as a craft gave me permission to work on me. And as Marianne Williamson says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, fabulous, talented? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. You shrinking back up. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not in just some of us, it is in all of us. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. And so it's inevitable that a light bulb will go out, right? We know that. And when that time comes and that light does go out, we don't shame the light bulb for going out. It served its purpose. We knew it was going to happen unless it was one of those, like, new smart bulbs that last like 22 years and that totally messes up what I'm talking about. But we're talking about a regular light bulb. And so my question to you is, why do we shame ourselves when we need to put ourselves first in regards to self-help? Okay, Clint, dadgummit. And so all I can say is that when you say yes to yourself, you know your motivations, you know your triggers, you're giving yourself the opportunity to build yourself. A light bulb, before it goes out, I recently found this out, it actually gets brighter before it goes out. Well, this is where accountability comes in. We have so many different people who we think that they're just needy people. What if they're in a brighter moment in life? What if you stepped in and had a chance to talk to them and had actual personality so that you can help that light bulb stay brighter for just a little bit longer? So you yourself as a craft is the most important thing you can do in this world. Everybody say time blocking. I hate it with a passion. And one of my old bosses is here. She knows I'm really bad at it. But I learned this at Victory Family Church, and it was strategic with my time so that I can do within my time. Create time to be creative. Create time to build your craft. Create time for personal development, for whatever it is that's going to help work on you. Sorry, I'm scanning because Clint gave me the 2-minute mark, and I'm like, am I going fast enough? Am I not? Some of us, our craft needs to be not just working on ourselves, but maybe it's finances. Maybe we talk to somebody. Maybe we have those tough conversations with people that open us up and make us better. And once we begin to do that, we'll understand that we actually have more freedom. There's freedom in setting a financial budget. There's freedom in setting a time block schedule for your life. There's freedom in that because you realize you have so much more to give and so much more to do when you actually plan it out and take the time to invest in yourself. When you work on yourself as a craft, you open yourself up to the opportunities that you have to have an actual craft in this world, and that's when your wildest dreams come true. So think of yourself as a craft. Be kind when your light bulb goes out and needs to be changed. Position yourself around folks that will help you and keep you accountable. Find freedom in time blocking so that you can do more. My name is Krista. I am craft, therefore you are craft. Thank you. Let's give it up for Tim with the overalls on Broadway.
Yeah, I'm Tim Dillingham. I'm going to give you a little bit of an iceberg version of my uncreative life. You know, there's a lot of, I'm going to give you some concrete examples, but there's about 7/8 of the story that's still hidden. I grew up on a small farm, right next to a small town up in northwest Oklahoma. At a very young age, I was driving a tractor, and we were taught, you got to keep them lines straight, right, Charlie? You got to keep them lines straight. And even I had a few coloring books as a kid, but we had to outline, even though it was already dark black, we had to outline that and then color it in, and don't get out of the lines at all. And pretty much work, dawn to dusk and even later. So went to school in the first grade, and the very first day, it was very apparent who the artist was in the class. There was about 20 kids. It's Christy. Christy could draw these horses, and she could make them look just like a horse. And I thought, good grief, and I can't even color in the lines. But anyway, she got all this recognition and praise, and I went to school with her for 12 years, and so it was always, Christy always got a lot of recognition and praise, and some of the rest of us, were stuck doing arithmetic, and our little box of 8 crayons was, back in the deep recesses of our desk. Trombone got the best of me in about the 5th or 6th grade when we had band. I couldn't do music at all. I couldn't figure it out. But Christy, she got this. She was so good, later on that she got a French horn to play because she'd already mastered her instrument. And French horn, that's a hard instrument. Look at her go. And so, what about guitar? I tried guitar, but there was this girl that I had a crush on, from the first grade, and so here I am, like an 8th grade awkward boy, and I have to go over to her house to let her mother give me guitar lessons. That was like sort of a disaster, waiting to happen. I didn't get the guitar either. 9th grade, boys choir. Did anybody have to suffer through boys choir? Who wanted to be there? None of us, and that's why I think my son still tells me I sing like a prisoner. I'm behind a few I'm behind a few bars and looking for the key. I never did really get it. But then kind of got to high school, and I found something I was kind of good at. I was kind of good at basketball. I was on the first string, and I could make some great shots, jump shots and all that stuff. But who was better? Christy. The girls team, you got a lot of recognition. The guys, we were there. We played basketball, but the girls and her, with her leadership, they did great. But homecoming night, she was all dressed up, in her gown and her all this stuff, her makeup, and And here I come out at halftime, all sweaty, and I put this little crown up on her head, and I kiss her. You know, that's been when you could still kiss a girl at that sort of thing. But did I want to kiss her? You know, I had a girlfriend already, and I didn't feel good enough. I know we already talked about feeling good enough. I didn't feel good enough to kiss this artist or crown her or be even beside her or anything, you know, because she was so much better than me. But anyway, she went off to art school, and I went off to OSU and studied marketing, and got involved in agriculture, ran some grain elevators, raised some kids. One of my youngest sons over here, he's a very creative musician. I've got another son who's still lives on the family farm up by Enid, raising a couple kids up there to be little farmers, I guess. My daughter been a stay-at-home mom. She's just recently discovering some hidden talents that she has, you know, with creativity. And and then my wife, of course, is very creative. You know, she sells some paintings along. She does aromatherapy and art therapy, you know, kind of combined, and you know, real creative person in her own right. But I've been, you know, several years I've been trying to do creative things. I've you know, taken a writing class. I've done poetry. I've taken djembe lessons. You know, I tried to learn how to drum. I don't have any rhythm. Photography, metal art, cut and paste. So I even bought a sewing machine, and thought I could, you know, I can sew. Well, I can't. The bobbin won't stay together or whatever. But and Kyle, don't tell Grandma, but I've even taken a Bible and you know, altered books, you know, cut it up and done some things. You know, should I have done that? I don't know, but should I have, Krista? I don't know. Anyway, last summer I got an opportunity to go to a men's camp up in Utah, and I'd already been kind of studying this book, The Artist Way, and I know probably a lot of you have read that and worked through it. If you haven't, I'd suggest you do. It's an older book, but the theme for the 2-week camp was based on this book here, The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. And it's an old book, but I'd recommend it if you want to get some you know, real insights on how to be creative and how to tap in to the universe, you know, and God, you know, it's all out there for us. Part of the camp, we did a fire walk at the end, and you know, I wasn't going to do it. I called my wife. She says, "Don't do it." I said, "I'm not going to do it." You know, but it was all about overcoming limiting beliefs. You know, for 2 weeks we were trying to overcome limiting beliefs, and so that fire walk was, you know, relatively easy compared to what else I did. I rode a horse. The first time in 60 years or 50 years at least, I rode a horse, and when I was writing this week, it kind of came to me that I think that first grade art experience with Christy and that horse gave me allergies to horses for all of my life. Now that's, you know, you can laugh. I don't know. There is a lot of stuff that goes on in your head, and there's a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die, and I subscribe to that. And I think you know, I'm gonna do some more, you know, with aromatherapy and stuff, just kind of go back and figure out really what the heck happened. But so what about, you know, what the heck? What about these barn quilts? What's all this got to do with barn quilts? I don't know. I went to. Some people ask, "Is that a passion of yours?" I said, "No. Well, you know, I don't know. Not a passion. I mean, it's something I'm really kind of enjoying right now, and I want to do it." But I went to Omaha a couple weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, to hear Warren Buffett speak at Berkshire Hathaway's annual stockholders meeting, and I thought I'd get some real insight on investments and this and that. But you know, I was there for 2 or 3 days. I didn't even hear him speak, but on the way up and on the way back, I saw these barn quilts up on these barns, and I'm thinking, no, I'll never be a multi-millionaire probably, but you know, I can get some paint over at Home Depot and get some duct tape, blue tape, and mark it off and make a straight line. And so I was over at Hobby Lobby kind of goofing around. Should I do it? What should I do? And I met this artist over there. She was getting plywood cut. Her name's Abby Stiglitz. Is she here? Or do anybody know her? Anyway, she sort of influenced me. She's got some art down at DNA Galleries. You know, not anything like my art, of course, or craft, but she was like the last little nudge I needed to go ahead and buy some plywood, get some paint, and go home and put that design on. So last week or 2 weeks ago, I heard Elizabeth Gilbert. She's the gal that wrote "Eat, Pray, and Love." She was doing an interview with Krista Tippett on being National Public Radio. She said something about, don't follow your passions. That's putting too much on somebody like me and maybe Charlie. I don't know. Maybe it's some others. It's just putting a lot of pressure on you to follow your passions if you don't know what the heck your passions are. So she says, follow your curiosity. And in doing that, it may lead to a passion. But even if it doesn't, so what? You've still had a good time, and it's just fine. So anyway, to wrap this up, don't be afraid to wear overalls if that's what you want to do. Don't be afraid to just follow your curiosity and just try some things. Buy a sewing machine, try to sew. Buy some plywood, buy paint, buy anything. Just try it. Be curious. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim, for your authenticity. Thank you, Krista, for your fire. Thank you, Rachel, for your heart. And thank you all for coming. Richard Rohr, in his book, Falling Upward, he beckons his readers, and he says, get ready. Get ready for a new adventure, the one you were really born for. Get ready for some new freedom, some dangerous permission, some hope from nowhere, some unexpected happiness, some stumbling stones, some radical grace, and some new and pressing responsibility for yourself and for our suffering world. Have any of you ever had a creative identity crisis? Anyone? I see you. I feel like I'm in church. I see you. Me too. And isn't it funny how we do that? Even that term, creative identity. And we do that, right? We equate what we do with who we are. And as a matter of fact, the past 2 years, I have been in a creative identity crisis of sorts. About 10 years ago, I moved from my home state of Georgia to Southern California to pursue a career in photography. I worked with a photographer for a time, and then I became the photo shoot producer for a catalog company, which I loved. After being in California for about 5 years, I moved back to Georgia, and I started my own photography company while simultaneously pursuing a degree in international business. And during that time, I was connected with a global leadership development company called Giant Worldwide. I was a client of theirs, and I was also hired by them. They have headquarters in London as well as several U.S. states, and I was hired to work with one of our co-founders, Steve Cockram, in London. But shortly before I moved to London, Steve and our co-founders, Jeremy Kubicek, came to me and said, hey, we've been talking, and we've realized that the weight of our need for this role is not actually in London, it's actually stateside, and it would be in Oklahoma City. So they said to me, we know it's not London, but would you consider moving to Oklahoma? I had never been here. I didn't know anyone, and I didn't know any better, so I said, sure, why not? And actually, it's been a very good thing. So for the past year and a half, I've been working in the leadership development space. And that is not typically a very artistic or what we consider typically creative vocation. So it's lent itself to this very present tension of existing as a creative, as my craft, as Rachel and Krista talked about, in a non-creative space. And as we get into wrestling with this tension for a minute, I want you to look with me at the background of the term craft. If you Google it, you'll get a couple different things. It'll talk about skill set, particularly working with your hands. It'll also tell you that a craft is a small sailing vessel, if that means anything to you. But maybe for you, when you heard today's theme of craft, it conjured up images of glitter and glue sticks and the Martha Stewart section at the store. But actually, The word craft has its roots in Old English. It's a term that's over 1,000 years old, and it varies slightly from the term we use today. It was spelled C-R-A-E pushed together as a digraph, F-T. And I don't know about you, but I kind of picture it being pronounced in this very deep Anglo-Saxon brogue, like craft, with passion and with heart. And there's a man named Alexander Langlands who actually wrote a book about this subject, about the term and how its evolution has continued throughout history. And in his research, he comes across the fact that it speaks of knowledge, but it's not just a knowledge of making. Craft, in its original root, is a knowledge of being. So beyond being a mastery of specialized skills, it's actually a way of looking at the world. So if we take craft as this holistic viewpoint, then we can see that maybe it's not primarily a matter of doing, but craft is a matter of becoming. And if we look back at some of the original visual art that we have documented in history, it would be that of the cave dwellers. They used charcoal and dye and other things to draw on cave walls. And they would draw things like bison and images of nomadic living. For us today, that invokes, this sense of history, of legacy. It invokes awe. And if we were to equate that to us right now, that would be like us drawing a picture of our car, of drawing a map to our grocery store, of posting a picture of your dog or the bird out your window or your latte at Coffee Slingers. And we all do this, right? I mean, we post pictures of our lunch on Instagram. So that's what these cave dwellers were doing. They were like, this is what I did today. And the thing, though, that's interesting to me about this is there was no guarantee that anyone would ever see this documentation. There was no immediate affirmation of a notification on your phone. There was no telling if it would ever be seen. This wasn't for likes or followers or comments or even for clients. So the question is, why did they do this? And it seems that there's an intrinsic human desire to record, to share, to document, to tell a story. It was a memory, it was a commemoration. And we do this today, don't we? And it kind of is reminiscent to me of Dr. Seuss's book, Horton Hears a Who, when they say, we are here, we are here, we are here. And here we are. Here I am, here you are. So again, if we look at craft in this holistic viewpoint of combining what we do and who we are, then actually craft is an opportunity for influence. And as we refine our craft, then we're actually focusing and maximizing our influence. And hear me, I'm not talking about social media influencers and celebrity level influence. This isn't for followers, and this isn't egotistical or narcissistic. This is about leaving your mark on the world. And when you see it that way, the best part is there are no limits. It doesn't have to look a certain way or feel a certain way or sound or produce or finish or act a certain way. But what we do know is that the world needs what you have. It needs to hear your voice. And where there is fear, do it anyway. Bob Goff would encourage us with this. He says, quit trying to win old arguments with people who don't understand who you're becoming. And for some of you, that might conjure up conversations you've had with parents or other family members or spouses or friends or followers or bosses or clients. But I wonder if any of you would resonate with me when I say that the person I find myself arguing with the most is myself. You're a failure. You're not enough. You'll never amount to anything in your art, in your passions, in your pursuits, and the things that you pour yourself into, and the things your heart most beats for, and the things you most hope for. You'll never make it. So it would appear that I often, least of anyone, understand who I'm becoming. So here, in this very fragile, raw, vulnerable, lifelong process of becoming, I want you to use these words, not just from me and from our other speakers, but conversations you've had today. I want you to use this morning as a line in the sand. I want to give you new freedom. I want you to leave here with dangerous permission, with hope from somewhere, with failure without fear, with found happiness, and with a new understanding of the power and purpose that you contribute in bringing life to our world. Thank you.